Have you ever been binge watching a British TV show like Sherlock, and suddenly you realize you have no idea what they just said? Or maybe you're from a country that learns British English, and you're trying to understand a fast-talking American YouTuber. You're not alone. It feels like trying to catch a speeding train, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to slow that train down. I'm going to show you exactly why fast-spoken English is so tricky and, most importantly, give you a complete guide to understanding both American and British accents. We'll break down the secrets of fast speech, do a deep dive into the specific differences between the US and the UK, and I'll give you a step-by-step training plan to turn you into a confident listener, no matter who's talking. So, if you're ready to finally crack the code of fast English, let's get started. Before we even get into accents, let's talk about the universal challenge of fast speech. What makes native speakers sound so quick? It's not just about speed, it's about efficiency. Think of it like this. When we speak, we're lazy. We want to get our ideas out using the least amount of effort. This laziness creates three key features that you'll find in every accent of English. First, we have reductions. This is when we change a sound to make it weaker and faster. The most common example is the schwa sound, which is a soft, unstressed sound. For example, we don't say I want to go, we say I want to go. The word for becomes fur, as in this is for you, can becomes kn, like I can do it. These little reductions happen all the time, and if you're listening for the full dictionary pronunciation, you'll miss them completely. Second, we have linking or connected speech. Native speakers don't talk in separate words. We link them all together in a smooth stream of sound. One common type of linking is when a word ending in a consonant sound is followed by a word starting with a vowel sound. For instance, instead of an apple, we say an apple, turn it off becomes turn it off. We blend them together. Another type is when two vowel sounds meet. We often add a little W or Y sound to connect them. Go on might sound like gowan, and I am can sound like Iam. This is a huge reason why it's so hard to tell where one word ends and the next begins. The third feature is elision, which is just a fancy word for deleting sounds. We're so lazy we just drop sounds entirely. For example, in the phrase next door, most people don't pronounce the T in next. It just becomes next door. The D in and is almost always dropped. So rock and roll sounds like rock and roll. You'll also hear it in words like probably, which often becomes probably, or library, which can sound like library. These three things, reductions, linking, and elision, are the foundation of fast-spoken English. And they happen in both American and British English. Think of going to becoming gonna or want to becoming wanna. That's universal. Recognizing these patterns is the first and most important step to improving your listening comprehension, no matter which accent you're hearing. Now, let's get into the fun part, the great divide between American and British English. Once you understand the core differences, it's like getting a pair of magic glasses that help you see, or rather, hear everything more clearly. We're going to focus on the biggest giveaways, the R sound, the T sound, some key vowels, and a few vocabulary curveballs. Let's start with the R sound, or what linguists call rhoticity. This is probably the single most obvious difference. American English is what we call rhotic. This means Americans pronounce the R sound wherever it appears in a word. Think of words like car, hard, or water. You can clearly hear that our sound, car, hard, water, standard British English, on the other hand, is non-rhotic. This means the R is only pronounced if it's followed by a vowel sound. So, for those same words, a British speaker would say car, had. The R is silent. But in the word water, because the R is at the end, it's often softened or dropped completely, sounding more like wada. However, if a British speaker says the car is red, they will pronounce the R in car because it links to the vowel in is. The car is red. This leads to a really interesting feature in British English called the intrusive R. Sometimes they'll add an R sound to link to words, even when there's no R in the spelling. For example, the idea is ... often becomes the idea dash, or dash is ... or I saw a film can sound like I saw a film. It's a little quirk that can really throw you off if you're not expecting it. Next up is the T sound. This one is another huge clue. In American English, when a T sound falls between two vowel sounds, it often turns into something called a flap T. It's a very soft D sound. So, the word water doesn't sound like Washington, it sounds like water. Better becomes better. City becomes city. This flap T is a hallmark of the American accent. Get a lotta becomes get a lotta. Now, in many parts of Britain, especially in and around London, they do something completely different with the T. They use a glottal stop. This is where you cut off the sound in the back of your throat. It's the sound in the middle of O. So, instead of water, you might hear war. The sound is stopped in the throat. Butter becomes boor. It's a bit of a problem, can sound like I's a buy of a problem. If you're listening for a T or even a D sound, this glottal stop will sound like a missing piece of the word. Now, let's talk vowels. There are dozens of subtle vowel differences, but let's focus on two of the most common ones. First, the O sound in words like hot, stop, and got. In American English, this is an open, relaxed O sound. Hot, stop, got. In standard British English, it's a much more rounded sound, made with the lips pushed forward. Hot, stop, got. Listen to the difference. American, I got a lot of coffee. British, I got a lot of coffee. The shape of the vowel is completely different. The second big one is the A sound in words like can't, bath, and laugh. In American English, this is a flat A sound, like in cat. G. So, can't, bath, laugh. But in Southern British English, this becomes a broad, open A sound. D. It sounds like can't, bath, laugh. So an American might say, I can't take a bath, while a British person would say, I can't take a bath. This single vowel change is a major identifier. Of course, we can't forget vocabulary. This is where things can get genuinely confusing because the same object can have two completely different names. For example, in America, you ride in an elevator. In Britain, you take a lift. In America, you wear pants. In Britain, pants are your underwear and you wear trousers. An American wears a sweater, a Brit wears a jumper. You eat a cookie in the US, but a biscuit in the UK. And don't get me started on cars. The back of the car is the trunk in America, but the boot in Britain. The front is the hood in America, but the bonnet in Britain. There are hundreds of these, but being aware of the most common ones can save you a lot of confusion. Finally, there's the rhythm and intonation, the music of the language. This is more of a general feeling than a hard rule, but it's very real. American English often has a more level, some might say flatter, intonation pattern. The pitch doesn't rise and fall as dramatically. British English, especially what's known as received pronunciation, often has a more varied, sing-song quality. The pitch tends to go up and down more, creating a different kind of melody. Neither is better, they're just different musical styles. Learning to recognize this music is a key part of tuning your ear to an accent. So, to recap the deep dive for American English, listen for the hard R, the flap T that sounds like a D, and the flatter A and A sounds. For British English, listen for the missing R's, the glottal stop T, and the broad A and rounded O sounds. Just knowing these few rules will make a world of difference. Okay, we've deconstructed fast speech and we've navigated the differences between American and British English. Now, what do you actually do with all this information? How do you train your brain to process it all automatically? The great news is that the strategies for improving your listening work for any accent. It's all about targeted, active practice. Let's go over a 3-part action plan. Our first strategy is active ear training. This isn't just passive listening while you do your laundry. This is focused, deliberate practice. The two best methods for this are shadowing and dictation. Shadowing is when you listen to a short audio clip and repeat what the speaker says exactly as they say it, trying to match their speed, rhythm, and pronunciation. It's like being their shadow, so find a 1-minute clip of an American speaker. Listen and repeat, line by line. Try to copy that flap T. Try to match that level intonation. Then, do the same with a 1-minute clip of a British speaker. Try to copy that glottal stop or that sing-song pitch. Shadowing forces your mouth and your brain to get used to the physical patterns of the accent. It connects the sounds you hear with the movements you make, which builds a much deeper understanding. Dictation is another powerful tool. Find a short audio or video clip about 30 seconds long. Play the first sentence and write down exactly what you hear. Then play it again to check, and again. The goal is to get it perfect. When you do this with an American accent, you might write water instead of water. That's great. It shows you're hearing the sounds as they are actually produced. When you do it with a British accent, you'll be forced to notice where they drop the R or use a glottal stop. This trains your brain to spot those specific accent markers we talked about. Our second strategy is what I call stair-step immersion. You don't learn to swim by jumping into the deep end during a storm. You start in the shallow end. The same applies to listening. You need to gradually increase the difficulty. Let's create a stair-step plan for both accents. For American English, start on step 1 with very clear, scripted content. News anchors from sources like CNN or NPR are perfect because they speak clearly and at a moderate pace. Once you're comfortable there, move to step 2. Semi-scripted content like TED Talks. The speakers are prepared, but it's more natural than the news. Step 3 is where it gets real. Conversational content. This includes podcasts with multiple hosts, interviews, and reality TV. Finally, step 4 is the boss level, scripted TV shows and movies, especially comedies like Friends or The Office US, where the dialogue is fast, full of slang, and overlaps. We can apply the same model to British English. For step 1, start with resources designed for learners, like BBC Learning English. They speak standard, clear British English. For step 2, move to the BBC News or documentaries narrated by someone like David Attenborough. The language is clear and professional. Step 3 is to try British panel shows like QI or Would I Lie to You? This is fantastic for hearing different regional accents and natural, unscripted banter. And for step 4, dive into scripted dramas and comedies like The Crown, Sherlock, or The IT Crowd. This will expose you to a huge range of speaking styles and speeds. The key is to master one step before moving to the next. Our third and final strategy is to focus on the gist. This is a psychological trick as much as a listening one. Many learners panic when they miss a word. Their brain freezes, and while they're worrying about that one missed word, they miss the next 3 sentences. You have to let it go. Even native speakers don't catch every single word in a fast conversation. We don't need to. We use context to understand the main idea or the gist. So, when you're listening and you hit a word you don't understand because of the accent or the speed, consciously tell yourself, it's okay, keep listening. Focus on the content words, the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives. These carry the most meaning. If someone says, I couldn't really get a better deal, and you miss the middle part, but you hear deal, you can probably guess the meaning from the context. Don't strive for 100% comprehension at first. Aim for 70% and understanding the main point. As your ear gets better, the details will start to fill themselves in. So, let's bring it all together. We've learned that fast speech isn't just about speed. It's about universal shortcuts like reductions, linking, and dropping sounds. We then took a deep dive into the main differences between American and British English, the rhotic versus non-rhotic R, the flap T versus the glottal stop T, those tricky vowel changes, and some key vocabulary differences. Finally, we built a practical, 3-step plan to improve your listening skills. Active ear training through shadowing and dictation, stair-step immersion from easy to difficult content, and the crucial skill of focusing on the gist instead of panicking over missed words. The journey to understanding fast-spoken English is a marathon, not a sprint. The most important thing is to be patient and consistent. If you feel overwhelmed by trying to learn both accents at once, that's perfectly normal. My advice is to pick one to focus on first. Which one are you more exposed to? Which one do you need more for your work or studies? Master that one first, and you'll find that learning the second one becomes much, much easier. So here is your homework, your call to action for today. Find a 5-minute video clip on YouTube, Netflix, wherever in the accent you find more challenging. Don't turn on the subtitles just yet. Just listen. Don't worry about understanding everything. Just listen for the features we talked about today. Can you spot a flap T? Can you hear a dropped R? The goal isn't comprehension. It's recognition. This is the first step. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this guide has demystified fast English for you and given you the confidence and tools to start your training. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Happy listening, and I'll see you in the next video.